Welcome back, troops. Let's Tab 59. Hope you're all well. So I'm out on just a 4 miler today. Got a cheeky hospital appointment later. Nothing bad, everything's good, it's just a checkup. And I've only gone about a mile from the house, and I feel like I've got a boulder in my shoe, in my boot. It's probably a little tiny piece of gravel, but you know what it's like when you get one in your boot. Feels like a boulder till you empty it out and it's nothing much. But anyway, I'll stop and do that in a bit, but I want to do this video first. So, is the British Army, not the armed forces, I'm talking just about the Army. I haven't got all the stats for the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force, but they're just as bad. Our stats, British Army, are we big enough? Are we big enough to be a viable part of NATO? Probably are on paper, maybe they're accepting it. But are we big enough as well to defend ourselves if anything else happens? At the moment, the size of the army. Yes, we're part of NATO, as I said, so if summer does kick off, we're not stood on our own, hopefully. Hopefully we've got our NATO allies that will support us through a conflict. But even if we don't, even if you don't think we're big enough, if we were to increase, how would we increase our army? Because we're not recruiting as it is. And we're standing at 80,000 personnel in the British Army. That's regular. Yes, we've got our reservists, our army reserves, and they're at about 26,000. About 26,000 men and women in the Army Reserve. So we're well under 100,000, well, 80, just over 100,000 strong. Now, by comparison, the last time the British Army was that small, last time we had 80,000 soldiers in the British Army was back in 1800. Yes, we had a large navy back then. Obviously, we didn't have an air force. But that's the last time we were at 80,000. Now, in the Cold War days, in the 80s, we had about 158,000 soldiers, 158,000. And then we had about 63,000 reservists. So well over 200,000. And that was back in the 80s. Now, obviously, we're not going to have a war, well, hopefully we won't have a war where we stand alone. But we did. We had in 82, we had the Falklands War. That wasn't part of NATO. We were part of NATO, but NATO didn't really directly get involved. We got a little bit of support off of our American allies, thank you. But basically we had to field that ourselves. Now in the 80s, when we had this larger army, we had a big commitment in BAOR in Germany, British Army of the Rhine. And out there then we had 55,000 soldiers just in Germany. 55,000 just in Germany. And we mounted the Falklands on a bit of a shoestring, but the lads went down there and done the business. Now, as you probably heard, Argentina is making a few noises again about the Falklands. And yes, we've got a much better prepared garrison down there than we did in 1982. And I'm sure that we could fend them off. But it does make you worry about the size of our army, I think. But let's say we decided to increase the size of the British Army. How on earth would we do that? We're not recruiting properly as it is. We're not meeting our recruitment numbers now. So if we're at 80,000 now, and we wanted to increase it to 120,000 or 140,000, how on earth would we get those young men and women to join up voluntarily? And even if we increased the wages and made the pension deals better, we'd have to house them. Now, as many of you will know, so many army barracks have been closed down. As we've shrunk the army down, we haven't had the need for all the barracks. Yes, some new barracks have been built. A lot got shut down in Aldershot, but they've rebuilt the barracks there and Aldershot Garrison. Colchester Garrison's quite large now, Tidworth Garrison. But there's still many camps that have closed down. So if we wanted to increase the army, and we had a mad rush to the recruiting office by young men and women to join up because the package we'd come up with was so good, they were interested in joining, where would we put them? And it's down to money, isn't it? I mean, we just don't have the money. Back in the 80s, when we did have a large army, I can remember being out in Germany in the Cold War, and yes, like I say, we had a big army, but our kit and equipment wasn't the best. I remember our vehicles were breaking down all the time. I done a video a while back on Active Edge. Go and have a look at that one. And some of the comments on that video, lads saying, well, we got called out on Active Edge and half the vehicles weren't fit for purpose. So they'd broken down and they'd be parked up with a chalk mark written down the door saying destroyed. You know, we wouldn't leave a decent vehicle behind, or half decent vehicle, but we couldn't move them. So I think we're stuck. I can't see, even if we wanted to, I don't think we could increase the size of the British Army, because I don't think we've got the money to pay for the infrastructure, to build married quarters. I mean, so many married quarters have been sold off by the army, by the MOD. So I say we won't better house them. So it's a problem I think that can't be solved. I can't see how we can solve it. There's no money for anything. We're sending all our money overseas. And look at our ammunition states. Now I've read somewhere, I don't know how true this is. Somebody shout me out if you've heard different. But I've heard that if we were to go to war, even as part of NATO, we've probably only got enough ammunition stockpiled to last us about 3 months. And that's a real worry, because if we did go into something and our ammunition stockpiles are going to run down in 3 months, our factories have got to work flat out to produce ammunition, to keep feeding the front line. How are we going to do that? How are we going to increase that productivity? I see that as a massive problem. So is the army big enough? It's a bigger question than that, isn't it? It's not a case it's big enough. I don't think it is big enough. But I think the real problem is, even if we wanted to make it bigger, I can't see how we can. I think we are stuck. Well, I'll be interested to know what some of you guys think on it. I think many of you will be thinking like me, yeah, we're too small, but it's almost impossible for us now to grow the army, to get numbers back on the ground, to get more boots on the ground, because we just don't have the military infrastructure to support all those extra personnel that we want. So many camps were shut down, guys, you know that. I mean, let alone the army, look at the RAF. RAF Scampton, which isn't far from where I am, it's all gone. All the married quarters are sold off. The camp's now housing asylum seekers, I believe. So the camps have gone. Connaught Barracks, I've done a video on that one down in Dover. Always used to be an infantry battalion in there. That's knocked down. They're putting houses up there, civilian housing, and that's so common in the UK at the moment. There just isn't the barracks to house them. Of course, when we came back from Germany, when our Cold War commitment out there was really done and dusted, and the troops started coming out of Germany, all the barracks were handed back to the German authorities. And of course, they've done similar things. They've used some of those barracks to house asylum seekers, or they've completely demolished them and put something else there. So let's pull over here for a second. So as I say, I think we're screwed. Please let me know in the comments what you think. I think many of you agree we're not big enough if something kicked off. And we're always too little too late, aren't we? We always leave it to the last minute. And then we rush around and put black nasty on everything and stick it all back together somehow and we get by, I know. But it's a big question. I'll be interested in your thoughts. So, we get this stone out of my shoe now so I can crack on with this tab. And I've got to go down to Kent tomorrow. I'll be down there for a couple of days. I've got to go down. Tracy's got a funeral to attend, unfortunately, so one of her friends. So we've got to go down for that. But I'll be back up by the weekend, and we'll have some more tabbing videos ready for you then. But till the next time, troops, stay safe. Remember, let's tab.